Hello, fellow gamers, and welcome to the Video Gamers Podcast. Today's episode is for anyone who's ever dreamt of turning their passion into something real. What happens when you see a gap in the market and decide to take on industry giants like Nintendo and Sony? Today, we're talking to someone who did just that, not just to build a product, but how we change the way we game. But first, some introductions are in order. I am your host, John, and I'm joined today by Ryan. Ryan, say hello.
Sorry, I'm playing Claire Obscura on my phone. Sorry. Hey,
what?
everybody.
You can do that? That's amazing. Did you say day one also? And joining us today is the CEO of Backbone, Maneet Khaira. I may have butchered the last name. I should have clarified that before the show. To talk about a product called the Backbone Pro, mobile gaming's glow up, and what the future looks like when your phone becomes your console. Maneet, how are you?
Really great to be on the podcast and excited to tell you more about the product.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we're excited to talk about the product as well and learn a bit more about you and your journey here. Before we kind of get rolling in the conversation, though, I feel like there's an important disclaimer that I have to share. So Maneet and Backbone were kind enough to share demo units with Ryan and I of their new product, the Backbone Pro. And other than that, we have received absolutely no compensation, monetary or otherwise, for this product. And the reason this is important is that I won't speak for Ryan on this, but I quite frankly had a superlative experience with this product, and I don't want my enthusiasm to be mistaken for product placement at any point in time. Maneet, we feel, has a very interesting story to share, and it just so happens that they turned out a great product here. And, we're looking forward to learning more about it.
I mean, I actually bribed John before this and sent him multiple free Pokemon. So
Pokemon does not count as compensation.
I was going to say, too, I got a pretty sweet jacket, which was nice as well.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Nobody sent us a jacket before, man. That was class. Yeah, we get shirts and hats and stuff, but jacket for sure was class. I don't know if you know this though, but we're in Arizona. It's like 100 degrees right now. So
I can wear it like 2 weeks of the year, but I'll be happy when I do.
Okay, we'll switch to tank tops for next year. All good.
There you go.
we might be cutting the sleeves off of these and doing the Larry the Cable Guy thing.
Sun's out, guns out, baby.
Yeah, baby. So, Minnie, I have to understand the motivation behind what was the inspiration to create something like this? Like anytime you bring something to market, especially retail, especially in gaming, you're really like putting yourself out there. It's a crowded market with lots of pretty cheap competitors out there and lots of big powerhouses. What was the spark behind it? Like what frustrated or inspired you to start something like this?
Sure. I'm happy to give you the full origin story. I guess just by way of background context, I'll introduce the company really quickly.
Please.
So, the way that I describe Backbone to people is that every time there's been a shift in streaming media, it's resulted in some of the biggest consumer businesses of all time. So for example, in music streaming, you had Spotify and Sonos. And then in TV streaming, you had Netflix, Roku. We like to think of Backbone as the analog company, but for the shift to streaming games, which, as you know, is well underway. Just like you can stream music and TV on platforms like Spotify and Netflix, you're able to stream games now through services like Xbox Game Pass. And Backbone is really one of the only independent companies that actually indexes against that trend. And not only that, but we're perhaps the only independent hardware software services company in gaming. I guess there was Oculus before, but they're kind of part of Meta now. And so that's how I would explain the company to most people. So quick primer on the origin story. I used to work at Google on YouTube back in 2018. I worked on short form video products at YouTube, what later became YouTube Shorts, and then also a little bit on gaming as well.
In what capacity, do you mind me asking?
Yeah, so I was part of the product management program there.
Okay.
So helped figure out what to make. But I come from sort of like an engineering background, so was involved in the nuts and bolts as well.
And so you're really fun at a party, is what you're saying.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Especially in San Francisco. I'm the best, yeah. So worked at YouTube. And while I was there, I lived in a house with 4 of my friends to split rent, save on it a bit, and pretty
That
much
seems to be the way to live in
yeah,
San Francisco.
yeah, yeah. And every single day, we would all get back home from work, and we'd all play Fortnite on our phones together, which sounds like a really radical idea because why would you play on your phone when you have multiple high-end gaming PCs and consoles all inside of your house? And the reason we would do it is actually the first time that we could all easily play the same game together. Because even in 2025, if you want to play games with your friends, it actually requires quite a bit of activation energy. You have to own, all these different devices and have parallel setups, console, TV, etc. But mobile device was the lowest common denominator, so we could actually all play the same game together. And this is great timing because, as you may know, like Fortnite is allegedly going to come back to the App Store literally later today.
That's very good timing,
Yeah.
sir.
Critical moment. This was right when Epic had made the update to the game where you could run the game at 60 frames on a phone, which was actually twice the performance that you get versus if you ran it on the Nintendo Switch that we had inside of our house. So you imagine we were just sitting there like totally floored and completely flabbergasted at how it was physically possible to run a game at better fidelity on a mobile device versus a device that was literally purpose-built for playing games. And as we were sitting there, we realized there were 2 big issues. First of all, even though the game ran exceptionally well, the actual experience of playing it left a lot to be desired because it was really designed to be played with an input device. And Phil Spencer, for example, talks about how input is the first thing that they look at when they're evaluating games at Xbox, because that's what creates that seamless connection between your mind and the game that allows it to be a fun experience. And so input, we thought could be a lot better. And the other part that we realized is it didn't feel like you're playing on a dedicated gaming platform. And that kind of became the basis for the Backbone app, which you can download on the App Store today. It's like a gaming home app that turns your phone into like a console-like experience where you can access, all the different games and services in one place. So it's like the only app where you could play Xbox, PlayStation, Steam, App Store games.
Right next to each other. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a beautiful interface too, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you. And we realized these 2 problems, and we, I was kind of in the right place at the right time. Shortly thereafter, 2-3 weeks later, I went into the office, and an engineer had built this demo where you could use Google's cloud technology to basically stream games to any screen in your life. Now, more importantly, this technology was being built at Microsoft and Sony and other companies, but I got to catch an early glimpse of it. And back in 2018, there was a very small group of people that knew about the tech that was being built at the data center level to let you do exactly this. And no company had made a public commitment to like cloud gaming or anything like that. So I got to be one of the first people in the world to like try like the real version of this. And
Nice.
as I was sitting there, they basically were able to run, I forget exactly what game it was, but like GTA or something on a 2 generations old Android phone. And I was like, I picked it up and I like played around with it. And I just like lost my mind. I was like, this is insane, right? That you could even do something like this. We've seen disruptions in gaming across audio, content, business models, but this certainly has to be like the single biggest disruption in the history of the games industry, at least in my lifetime, or one of the biggest, because it's just a phase shift in terms of who can even access these types of games. And I got really enamored with this idea. So I decided to make a presentation internally on why I thought gaming was going to be the biggest opportunity for Google in like the next 10 years. Because we had Google Play, which was kind of by accident, multi-billion-dollar games business. And then you had with streaming. And I made this like slide deck about this whole opportunity, and I sent it to the head of product for YouTube Gaming. And I realized I could go a bit wider. So I wrote a script to schedule it to go to like all the relevant vice presidents in the company at like 10 a.m. peak reply time Monday morning. Woke up the next day, there were about 1,000 people in the document. On my last day at Google, 15% of the company read it, and it became one of the most viral documents internally in Google's history. And so after that,
Interesting.
I got to meet a couple of the different executives that were working on different gaming initiatives. And it was somewhere in those conversations that I realized that there could be an opportunity to build something really, really interesting. Because, as I mentioned before, every time there'd been a shift in streaming, it resulted in these like generational consumer businesses. But not only that, none of the existing incumbents, it really felt like to me, had their incentives set up in such a way to want to create the right experience for the player as opposed to the platform. Because, you don't want a separate TV for Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, HBO. You want one device and platform that works with Xbox Game Pass, Apple Arcade, PS Remote Play, etc.
Absolutely.
So I realized there could be an opportunity to build an independent company, kind of like what had transpired with music and TV streaming, Roku, Sonos, etc. And therefore, I decided, let's go work on this idea. And this is circa 2018. Built an early team of people that I had worked with before, Google and other places, and started developing Backbone One. Took us a while to kind of arrive at the idea before I left, or after I left Google, and about 2 years, or maybe slightly more than that, to get it to market. I won't recount that 2-year period in detail because it was rather painful. Nearly died, or many opportunities to fail in that period.
Such is the life of a startup.
Yeah. And then we launched kind of at the end of 2020, early 2021, and the company just started growing really rapidly after that. Today, our products are available in all major retail stores. We've partnered with Xbox, PlayStation, Hideo Kojima. We raised over 40 million from Index, the main investor in Discord and Roblox. We have, one of the most popular apps in our category in the App Store. We were number 4 over holiday in our category. And we've just continued to scale the business and brand. And as you know, this week we just unveiled Backbone Pro, which has been in development for nearly 3 years.
Yeah, I got to tell you. So this is a really interesting story that you're sharing, and I do believe that you are solving, or at least capitalizing on a real opportunity that exists in gaming. And it's something that I think maybe is becoming a bit more salient, a bit more visible to your average viewer. But like I'll be honest, man, I've seen your products in Best Buy walking around, and it wasn't immediate. Like the concept of cloud gaming, like AAA titles to my phone, it just didn't even compute. And so I walk by it and I go, that's interesting, but I don't play mobile games. I have my Switch for that type of game, but most of the game, I'm a console gamer and will probably always be a console gamer. And it wasn't until very recently when I'll be honest, like I wake up at like 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock every morning. I'm a very terrible sleeper. I sleep like 2 to 3 hours a night. And so my PlayStation is in my bedroom, but my wife's asleep. And so I go, well, if I'm going to occupy my time right now, I don't want to wake her up. So one morning I was like, you know what? If I'm going to be up, I'm going to be productive with my time. I work on a video game podcast. Why not game? So I go out to the living room, and I remembered that there was this, this pop-up that happens on my Samsung TV every once in a while for cloud gaming. It just says, play brand new titles, no console needed. And I was like, I have an Xbox controller. Let's give this a whirl. So I hooked up my Xbox controller to my TV, and all of a sudden I'm playing brand new games fairly seamlessly. I won't say 100% seamlessly, but fairly seamlessly on my TV, on my Game Pass. And I go, what is this? Like, did I just kind of unlock a cheat code? Like, it's for $25 and no console. I've unlocked like a buffet of wonderful games, wonderful, proper AAA games of any genre that you could potentially want. And so it was like, wow, there's really something to this cloud gaming concept, and what does this mean for consoles? Like, if I can play these titles in great fidelity with no console, what does this actually mean for consoles? And then it just so happened, we receive requests for interviews and that kind of thing pretty regularly. We're at top in our category for gaming on many of the podcast carriers and stuff. But when your agency reached out to us with this concept, it was like primed perfectly, because I was just, riding this cloud train. I'm like, man, this seems really, really important. This seems like a paradigm shift in the industry. And so we received the product, and I walk a lot. My wife happened to be out of town, but I walk a lot. I walk, 30,000 steps a day, just as a part of my kind of normal fitness routine. I have it stacked. I have my business calls. I listen to podcasts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I drink a toxic amount of coffee.
In Arizona, you got to multiply that by 2, right? It's really
exactly. So got this product, hooked it up to my phone. The installation took seconds, and within a couple of minutes, I was able to stream a brand new heavy lift game called Claire Obscure Expedition 33, which is, by the way, we've been shilling this
Here we
game
go.
forever.
Oh god.
It is one of the most
Everyone else, by
magnificent.
the way, like every single interviewer call I've done this week, this game has been brought up, and
Dude,
yeah.
if you haven't played it yet, it's amazing. But it's extremely relevant, right? We are not talking mobile games. We are talking full on huge lift AAA title that has an enormous graphical load. And I was playing it on my phone with at least to my eye, a imperceptible difference in quality as I would have been playing it on my PlayStation. And it freaking blew me away, dude. Up until I sold my business, I used to run a pretty large, comparatively, HVAC business in Washington State. Sold it a couple of years ago. But up until that point, I was traveling quite a bit. My wife and I traveled a ton for work, for attending conferences and this kind of thing. We walk a lot. We're very pedestrian, lots of time spent in airports, train stations, bus stops, that kind of thing. And man, this would have been absolutely incredible, dude. Any traveler out there, anybody who's just like a walker and looking to increase their activity while maintaining their gaming habits, dude, what a game changer, man. This is unbelievable. So I have to ask, man, I mean, like, is this your first company that you started?
No, I've had a few other bites at the apple before this. They didn't make it this far though. It's like my third
Got it.
attempt, yeah.
Got it. You have to be pretty proud of this product, man. It's really cool.
Yeah, and to be, fully transparent, I did not design this. My team did, and the blood, sweat, and tears that went into it. I mean, I can tell you more about the development process and how we came about it. But building gaming products that people like, really hard. Microsoft spent $100 million in R&D to get the Xbox One controller developed. Gamers really care.
It's a good controller, to be fair.
It's great. I mean, it basically undergirds like all future controllers. I mean, that was like really critical to the development of like input. But I think it's really hard to do because you have to make something that's universally comfortable or as close to possible. So it has to work well for 5th percentile female hand size all the way to 95th percentile male hand size. And happy to talk more about the development of it, but your sentiments around sort of being skeptical of this class of experience are, you're not the only one that feels that way. I mean, I was very skeptical, and the first time I tried Fortnite running on a mobile device in 2018 was my aha moment. And I think a lot of people are starting to have that experience where they run like Halo or Expedition 33 on a smartphone, and they're just like really blown away. But of course, if you describe streaming games to the average gamer today, you'd probably be met with a fair bit of skepticism and literally just utter disbelief. They might be like, oh, I tried this 2-3 years ago. The technology wasn't that great. The performance will never be there. But you fast forward to now, Phil Spencer publicly shared that a double-digit percentage of all Xbox playtime is now time spent streaming games from the cloud. When we started Backbone, it was 0. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes sense. This feels disruptive in the same exact way as when the iPod was released. And it's like, oh, I guess we don't need like physical CDs anymore.
My giant CD book is just useless now,
Yeah, but I do think there's still emerging awareness for it. So we created more or less a product review for this product that saw some dissemination on social media, but like we kept getting, well, yeah, but like this can't compete with the Switch because like I don't need a controller to play Candy Crush. I'm like, no, you don't get it, bro. Like you're not playing. You might not be playing Mario Brothers, but you're bringing freaking Halo on the go, man. You're bringing Master Chief on the go. You're playing brand new titles on the go on your phone. No download. It's streaming right to your phone. Oh, and by the way, did you know that this product is only $160 compared to whatever $450 that the Switch is proposing at this point? $80 a game, dude. $25 a month. You pair your Game Pass with this thing. You have an entire game library for under $200. It's unbelievable.
Oh yeah, I think it's an incredible arbitrage, right? Because you think about it, you have a $1,000 phone in your pocket that has much more compute than any other device that's iterating on a mobile cadence, meaning annually. And you can't really keep up with Apple Silicon these days. It's insane. And so when you pair it with, a Backbone Pro, it's like a $1,100 or $1,200 gaming device that you're getting for the cost of like 100, $200. So it's a bit of an arbitrage, like in that sense. And yeah, I absolutely agree with you. We use the term mobile games, but I think there's a stigma attached to that where people think immediately.
Oh, absolutely.
100%. Yeah.
But it's not really mobile games that we're talking about. It's really games played on mobile devices. And I'm not just talking about streaming in this context, but also just like native App Store games. You can download Death Stranding on the App Store and play it on your phone without even streaming it from the cloud. You can play Call of Duty Mobile, Warzone Mobile, and these types of games. Genshin Impact and Fortnite is now coming back to the App Store putatively later today. Like, you can play all these native titles as well. You can even stream your console to your phone and play it anywhere through remote play. So our goal is to put all of gaming in one app and in one device. So you can access anything, anytime you want. And it's crazy the fact that you can access basically every single catalog, including like retro titles now with iPhone supporting emulation, so on and so forth.
So I have to ask, because this seems like it would be extremely detrimental to some of the first part to your Sonys, for instance, or your Xboxes. What was it like, forming collaboration with those companies? Like, for instance, I've got mine here, but you've got like Xbox right on your cover. I'm presuming you had to get their permission to do this. And now your product, your third-party product, is competing with their ability to sell consoles. I know they're kind of like looking towards moving away from consoles at this point anyways, but what do those initial conversations look like?
Yeah. So Backbone's ambition has really been to, help game developers just reach as many people as possible. Like, that's really why we do this. It always just felt like a bit of a tragedy to me that like you leave the living room and your gaming experience stops there, right? Or you leave, the desktop computer and your experience stops there. Like, why does that have to be the case? Like, why can't I access all these titles? Why is it so hard to play games with your friends? And that was exactly the situation and the reason we were playing Fortnite together in the first place. And so I think from the standpoint of consumers, like, making it possible to play these games anywhere you want is huge value add. And I think that's precisely the vision that Xbox has laid out, right? Like, they are talking about in their new Xbox Everywhere campaign, the idea of, basically turning every device into an Xbox. So I think it's quite harmonious with the direction that we're headed in. Our goal is to build, the next big gaming platform company, the sixth big one. And, we want our products to be first party in quality. Originally, we thought of ourselves as sort of like the first party of mobile gaming, or wanting to be that. But as time wore on, we realized that our vision wasn't just constrained to mobile, but rather we wanted to be able to allow people to play on any screen. And that's really the shift that Backbone Pro is at the forefront of, where you can actually pair it to every device in your life. So the experience you just described having, you could then, jump over to playing on your laptop or on your smart TV and pick up exactly where you left off in the exact same instance of the game. And it all works harmoniously.
Yeah, I've been doing that. Slay the Spire is a little indie game that came out a few years ago, and that's like my go-to like walking like cardio day game or whatever. But I've done that exact same thing where you save it on one and then you're able to pick it up right right where you left off on the other one. So it sounds like you were able to raise $40-some-odd million in development capital. How did you go about pitching this to people? I mean, like, again, forgive the Kevin O'Leary Shark Tank reference, but like in the grand scheme of things, like you're probably like a cockroach and like, why you, unless sounds like you've been in the biz for a while or whatever, but I mean like anybody, this could have come from anybody. Why you? How do you pitch this?
How do you pitch it? So look, I'm not going to claim to be, the best person in the world at this. Like, I think part of an entrepreneur's job is to attract capital. And people talk about like some of the investors I know, invested in like Elon companies and so on and so forth. And they explained to me that one of the reasons they invest in Elon's companies is because they know that he can attract subsequent rounds of financing, right? Because he's just an incredible fundraiser. And I think if you can convince the smartest people in the world to finance your ideas, you can basically do anything. And so, of course, one of the great benefits is you don't need to convince every single investor in the world to believe in you. You just need to convince
just people that are into Pokemon.
Yes, exactly. Just people that are into that is exactly how to go about this. That's the one thing you
It's a very niche but loyal audience. Yeah.
Correct, yeah. You don't need to convince every great investor to believe in you. You just need to convince one really good one. And so
Yeah.
that's sort of the attitude. Like, not every investor is going to believe in your idea, but again, if you had to get, the story of Airbnb is one such example. Apparently, they got rejected like 40 times or something like that before they eventually raised from one of the greatest venture capital firms in Silicon Valley. So you just need like one really good investor to believe in you, and so you just have to be absolutely ruthless. To speak about it more tactically, I think it's a combination of having a really clear vision for how the future would unfold. And I think, in my view, Backbone was sort of inexorable. Like a business like this has to exist. Whether we're the ones to build it, I think remains to be seen. And I hope that we're the ones to build it. We're certainly the market leaders today, but that could change. And my thesis has been, the games that you're going to be able to play on mobile devices and other screens are going to become better and better, right? Because of streaming, because locally you can run better games thanks to all the compute on like an iPhone. And if that's true, you're going to need software and devices on which to play those games, right?
Yeah.
So we built those. And that was really the simple premise of the company. I believed really in two macro trends. One was, gaming moving to streaming. And I think the fact that there wasn't any company that was thinking about that, makes it clear to investors like, hey, game streaming continues to play out just like it did in music and TV. There probably is going to be a company that, rises as a result. And then similarly, the other trend being high fidelity games on phones, which we've talked about as well. But, back when I was at Google, it was like a single digit percentage of Google Play revenue. These games like Genshin and, Roblox and Fortnite. And now it's over half
Right.
of all overall mobile games revenue. So it follows that there, would be some business opportunity on top of that. And that was sort of the rough story arc.
Right. That's great. I want to make sure to highlight something for any budding entrepreneurs out there, anybody who's looking to start a business. Every no is just one step closer to a yes. You have to be absolutely tenacious when you are looking to build a business and be absolutely crystalline confident to be able to do it. You're going to hear a lot of no's in your journey. You're going to hear a lot of them. That's just part of the process, but all you need is one really good yes, and that sparks a huge wave of momentum.
Yeah.
Thomas Edison famously created something like 1,000 different iterations of the light bulb that failed before he made the one that worked.
You only needed
And
the
it's-
one.
You only need the one.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Yeah,
you're absolutely
exactly.
right. You have to be absolutely relentless. I mean, there are investors that passed on the investment opportunity multiple times before they actually invested in Backbone. And
Yeah.
there's one investor that shared with me that basically, they got close, a few times, and then they finally invested in this kind of latest round of financing. And they actually tell the story of how we kept coming back as whenever they pass on other investments, to remind entrepreneurs the importance of resilience and the fact that, hey, these guys just kept on coming back, and eventually we actually believed what they said because they said what they were going to do, and then they did that thing.
Are you familiar with Jim Collins by any chance? He's a business author. He wrote a few books, Good to Great, Great by Choice, Built to Last, things like that.
No, I'm not familiar.
Well, anyway, there's a really important principle that I love quoting all the time. It is not that fortune favors the bold, it's that fortune favors the persistent.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, that applies in so many things in life, whether it's fitness or your friendships or certainly your business, obviously, but anything you're looking to progress at, the consistency almost always beats intensity. If you really believe in something, you have to just continue to do the successful actions that will get you there. And you will have a higher likelihood of good fortune. Nothing's guaranteed, obviously, but you will have a higher likelihood of good fortune just based on your stamina, your ability to withstand and push aside those no's in conquest for the yes. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I love that, man. I love talking to entrepreneurs, Maneet. This is such a
I can tell you're all geeked out right now, man. I love it.
Bro, yeah. For many years, my primary business was my primary gaming was business. It is one of the most intoxicating games that you can have, and now it's awesome that I have both.
There you go.
So let me ask you this then, Maneet. You are like actually in this industry when there's a lot of questions circulating. You've got Xbox just kind of followed suit with Nintendo, announcing that they're prices for their first party games are going to be in that $80 range. We're hearing Grand Theft Auto for $100. You know, Switch is $450, and it frankly doesn't even have all the like peripheral devices that you need to make it work, I think, the way they intended. Is this, are you seeing signs that are sort of signaling the demise of dedicated consoles at this point? Or what's your thought on that?
No, I mean, I'm quite bullish on consoles. Like, I think there's different points of view on this, of course, like across the industry. Some people are rather bullish on cloud gaming, and they think it'll like supplant everything in the long run, especially as just the streaming technology gets really good. And, you know, if there are data centers close enough to people's houses and everything works out as planned, you know, in let's say several years' time, you know, there will be probably, you know, some cannibalization. There are others that view it as more of an augmentation of the existing gaming experience, and I fall more into that camp and point of view. I think that, again, our really goal is to extend gameplay hours and time and bring gaming to more people who maybe haven't had the chance to access it before. You know, you could be living in Southeast Asia where, you know, consoles aren't as big and the cost might be prohibitive, and you could buy one of our products at a much lower entry price. And, you know, you may have never gotten a chance to use Xbox before, and it would be interesting to you.
Yeah. Bingo, now your phone's an Xbox.
Yeah.
Just like that. Someone from South Asia, that's not sort of how I felt about it. It's like, it's actually quite, you know, it's quite difficult to procure one of those devices there because of like all the tariffs and the cost that gets passed on to customers and everything. So, yeah.
So then this is really interesting to me. We have talked probably a bit too much on this Nintendo Switch to reveal that Nintendo does a fantastic job of maintaining integrity of their first party titles. They have some of the most iconic IPs in gaming, but, you know, technologically, they've always been, just in raw computing power, a bit behind. And I think when this Switch 2, the Nintendo Direct came out where they were announcing the Switch 2 and the price point and stuff, there was certainly a lot of sticker shock that we were exposed to, you know, by way of our gaming community, people sort of flagging us in it or whatever. What is your thought on how Nintendo is positioning themselves coming into this next generation? Because they, at least outwardly, don't seem to be wanting to jump onto this cloud trend. It seems like they are very much sort of holding firm to kind of their bread and butter mobile gaming experience that they refined with the Switch.
Yeah, they've dabbled a bit in streaming games. There's some experiences they offer, but not in the way that, you know, Microsoft or others are adopting it. Again, I'm really bullish. I just think Nintendo's is a unique class of company, and the content and IPs is just so incredible. I think they just continue to be really innovative, and I'm sure they'll find ways to like adopt this technology as it becomes more commonplace and like commoditized. Similar to what happened to TV streaming, right? Like in the beginning, there were like a handful of services, but then over time, the power kind of went to the IP owners and it became unbundled, and everyone started offering their own streaming services, and you saw like a huge proliferation of, you know, different streaming platforms. It may play out like that. So maybe, you know, Nintendo in 5 years' time has a streaming service after, you know, the technology costs come down.
I doubt it.
Yeah,
Dude, Mario Kart 8 right now, it's 11 years old. It's still $60.
Yeah. Well,
why would they do streaming?
Here's exactly things are worth exactly what people are willing to pay for it.
People buy it every day too. Yeah,
exactly. People buy it every day. There are a lot of Nintendo loyalists, and again, they maintain a good integrity product. Yeah. I think there's a certain amount of nostalgia that helps to float their brand as well. They have, again, some of the most iconic IPs that you can only get through Nintendo. They certainly satisfy a niche. But I can't help but feeling there's like a Blockbuster video element to this, man, where they're like, "No, man, we're doubling down on this. It's going to be DVDs forever." And we're like, "Guys, have you heard of Netflix? This thing is like really emerging here." Nah, don't, we won't worry about it. Right now, we're selling DVDs. We're renting DVDs. And like, well, yeah, but there's also this on-demand video. Like, you don't even like need like a cartridge or anything to like be able to watch this anymore. Nah, don't worry about it. And then by the time they pivoted, too late.
Even Redbox came in and they took over. There was Redbox on every single corner and every single Walgreens, and they didn't adapt, and now they're gone.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, and RIP Sega for similar reasons. They
Yeah.
I guess they weren't just able to compete on I don't know. I mean, this actually raises an interesting question for me, Maneet. So again, it sounds like you've been pretty successful in raising capital, but the dollars that we're talking about, at least on this show, are pretty small compared to your big Sonys and Microsofts and that kind of thing.
No question.
What do you do to communicate to your customers? Like, what are you doing to find people? I feel like this product has and I'm an example of this. I was your ideal customer. I'm your ideal customer. And it wasn't until I work on a video game podcast and I happened to receive a solicitation from an agency that said like, hey, we've got an interesting story to tell and a good product. Would you guys be interested in seeing what it looks like? And we go, yeah, this looks interesting. And we just happen to be on this sort of cloud hype or whatever. But you're not just communicating, hey, our product is the best. It's like you're re-educating your average customer. It's like, hey, no, this isn't Candy Crush. This isn't that silly game where your guy is running back and forth and multiplying their troops and avoiding barrels or whatever. But then it ends up being Candy Crush.
Yeah.
This is the quintessential high polished gaming experience, but on your phone. How do you educate your customers and then also convince them that this is the right product?
Yeah. So, I think there's a lot of elements to that answer, and the short of it is that, first of all,
10 words or less, please.
You have 5 seconds to respond. I think, first and foremost, we think that building a great product is the single most important thing. If you make something that's good enough that people want to talk about it, you've solved half the problem, because then you've created like some K factor or coefficient. Every time you're selling one product to a customer, they're talking about it with their friends or whoever. And so we really put a lot of energy into the design of this thing. Like, I think we probably did more iterations on this product than maybe even Xbox or Sony do on their controllers, because we don't have, really any fault. Like, this is the thing, we have one product we're designing, whereas these other companies, they have to design many different products, and we're expressly focused on mobile and creating the best experience across mobile and all these other screens. So we had to invest in like a really significant way and get it right. And it took a passionate team working on it for like 3 years to kind of realize that. And then everything else, it's really expensive to educate a market, very costly, especially with like new concepts and ideas. So it takes time, and also great macro tailwinds. If you look at some of the best new companies, there was always like some kind of macro tailwind that helped educate customers. And I think in this case, it's just the increase in interest in cloud gaming, like you guys discovering it organically, and then people kind of like wanting to look at products like this as a result. And also because App Store games that you can play on your phone are just getting better and better natively too. Like, again, I think Fortnite returning to the App Store will drive a lot of awareness. So we do our best to kind of like ride those moments and be present when those things happen. But we really think it starts and ends with the product, and just making that as great as possible.
I love that. I love what you said about getting it right. I know, I mean, even with game development, you get these companies that have made these multi-million-dollar games that they've spent years and years on, like Cyberpunk, and it wasn't right when it came out. And there's people that have written that game off, even though they fixed it. It is one of the best games ever made.
Final Fantasy 14 too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Their initial experience just wasn't good, and then they just write it off. So to make sure, especially in kind of entry into the market, something that's not something people are super comfortable with, and making sure that their experience is flawless and executes perfectly. Like I admire that was a focus, on your development. So that's something that's super cool to see, somebody take that time and we'll fix it later. Let's get it right the first time and give people the best experience right off the bat.
Yeah. And so maybe I can share a little bit more context around how we developed it, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
So we started from this really basic idea, right? Which is that if you're going to be able to run games on every screen because of cloud, or, just locally you're able to run these games, you're going to want to have one device that works across all those screens. And today, gamers identify heavily with the console, but we think they're actually going to identify more with the controller in the future, perhaps, because that's the one device you'll need to bring with you to play across all these different screens, like your smart TV, your laptop, etc.
It's certainly the most iconic component of whatever device you favor.
Yeah.
There's almost like an allegiance associated with it.
Exactly. And there's, somewhere like 400 million game controllers in the world today, and mostly designed for use with a single console, right? And so our thesis is that really hasn't changed in like 15 or so years. So we got to go back to first principles and maybe revisit some of those assumptions about what some type of a device that works with every screen should look like. And of course, I use the term controller because we have to like couch things in the terms that we have, but we really would describe Backbone Pro as a system consisting of 2 modes. And the first mode we call handheld mode, where you can dock a phone inside, and it's as comfortable as the best gaming handhelds in the market today, based on our testing.
Yep. I can confirm that. Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm a larger man. I'm 6'2", and this felt very good in my hands.
And this was exceedingly hard because, first of all, we love some of the gaming handhelds in the market today. Like, they're incredibly comfortable now. You get like full size form factor, etc. But one of the problems we see with these like PC gaming handhelds is that because they have to include like a battery, a screen, a lot of compute, so on and so forth, they end up being very large in terms of form factor. And then on the other side of the equation, you have these like more portable gaming devices, but they end up not being that comfortable. So like, what if we could take the ergonomics of a much larger form factor and squeeze it in the smallest package ever? This is actually the smallest product to actually have a full-size joystick component, like the same form factor that's in the DualSense Edge and the Xbox Elite. If you were to open this thing up, it's almost like an Apple Watch. There's 3 circuit boards on each side, whereas a typical game controller would have like 1 or 2. At one point during the design development process, we realized that the joystick was going to be 250 microns higher in the Z dimension than we had anticipated, meaning it was going to jump.
Oh, the Z dimension, yeah.
Like
We don't know what you're talking about.
I do. I do.
Okay.
Do you really?
I'm saying the thumbstick was going to be 250 microns taller than we were hoping, and that was going to throw off the ergonomics. 250 microns, for context, is about 3 thicknesses of a human hair. And so the team was like, no, we cannot change the ergonomics on this thing. And they found 10 different locations to shave 25 microns off the design to get it
That's
to stay.
so neat. I'm geeking out right now.
So we did over 9,000 individual part iterations. We hired a team of world-class researchers and designers and engineers that worked on products like the iPhone and the Meta Quest. And the way we tested our products and to make sure they were comfortable is we had to break it down to a science. So we have this set up inside our office, and you guys are always welcome to come by if you're ever in the Bay Area and check it out.
Oh, dude, I'll take you up on that. I've got family there.
We basically have this like 360 video system where we can record video footage of people playing games in real time. And what we were able to do in that video footage is use this software to basically do what's called digital goniometry, which is measuring joint angles of the hand. And usually, if you're an ergonomist, you might, if you're testing a device, have someone stop playing and then use a tool called a goniometer to measure their hand angle and then determine if something's comfortable or not, and then ask them some survey questions. The problem is during gameplay, people are in motion all the time. So if you ask them to stop, it's going to like kind of ruin the fidelity of the data. So we have to get it in real time. So we created this like video recording system. And that allowed us to determine if something was like kind of comfortable or not and measure joint angles of the hand. And then we'd use 3D printing to make additional iterations of the device based on the feedback from that and what customers said. So you bring people in the office, have them try it out, learn from the feedback, make a new iteration. And we did that like so many times, it's almost unbelievable. And because of all the rapid advancements in 3D printing and additive manufacturing technology, like we were able to do multiple iterations of the device in a single day to like test with customers.
Oh, wow.
And so we were so confident in the comfort of the device by the time we launched it because we had just done so much testing. We knew that it was going to be as comfortable as these gaming handheld products, even though it's like a fraction of the size. And then go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, so for anybody viewing the actual video of this, I'm showing the actual product here. So the very first impression that I had, when I picked this controller up, is that it feels tremendously high quality. Like we were just talking about the Xbox controller, which I think is a very fine controller. This feels better built to me than that Xbox controller. The PlayStation is probably, honestly, I would say that from a quality perspective and just from a design elegance perspective, this is right there, man. I mean, it is a gorgeous like it looks like a luxury product. It looks very high end. Even just the sheen of black, like this satin black color that you have on it, the way the joysticks feel, the button response, everything, even the extension here to be able to install it around your phone. I mean, it feels over-engineered a little bit. Honestly, it feels fantastic. It is a really cool quality product, man. But I will say that, so you were mentioning that because of advances in technology, you were able to produce these iterations and stuff, pretty quickly. You are not the only person with access to those iterations. What is the company doing itself to defend itself against like knockoff products?
Oh yeah,
Like,
so
like your Temu and your AliExpress stuff. I'm
Get it for $4.99.
Yeah, exactly.
no, I think first of all, I'm always flattered because, as they say, imitation is the highest form of flattery. Like, not just the small companies, but large companies take a lot of inspiration from the things that we do in terms of like product innovation. I think that our view is that, like, first of all, this product is so complicated to design. I think it would be much more difficult to pull something like that off. Because, I described how we had to make it comfortable in handheld mode. We also had to make it comfortable in wireless mode, right? Where it also has to feel sort of native, to kind of playing like on a regular game controller independently.
Yeah.
Which meant that the device weight had to be exactly, we calculated around 200 grams. So if you remove kind of the magnetic parts, it's exactly 199, which means if you couple it with the mass of the phone, it's still a good weight. But if you use it independently, it's not too light and it's not too hefty. It's like the kind of ideal weight for both modes of gameplay. So you can see how constrained this gets and how much engineering had to happen to like even get it to fit inside something like this. Yeah.
Right, but you've done all that work now.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot easier to reverse engineer something. Like for me, it would be I'm a dummy. I didn't know what the Z whatever thing Z dimension you guys were talking about. But I feel like I could have a much better go at copying this thing than I could at creating it initially.
You would think so, but still, I mean, because it's finessed down to like the sub-millimeter level.
Just tell me I'm really smart, Maneet.
Yeah.
No,
You didn't even know Z-axis. What are you talking about?
Shut up, Ryan.
Yes, I think I'd say it's there's still a lot of complexity to it because you have to like down to a sub-millimeter level. Like even if you change the ergonomics in a very slight way, it'll feel different, right? Like that's how much gamers care about this stuff.
Oh,
I think controllers are especially hard to copy for this reason. Like you can buy lots of controllers that look like an Xbox controller online, but they don't feel as good as what Microsoft created, right? And it's the same principle here. But I think the other benefit we have is the software, and we care just as much about the software platform as we do about the hardware. And then I think that creates this kind of like vertical experience that becomes more difficult because the companies that do hardware really well, they kind of sell you a device and they forget about you after they sell you the device. But because Backbone is kind of working on our app and ecosystem just as fervently as we are on the hardware, you're getting the benefits. Like people who bought Backbone 1 back in 2022 are getting a lot of the software updates that are coming out with Backbone Pro because they're just part of our ecosystem. And so in that sense, we're building an ecosystem company. So you buy our products, you can bank on the fact that we're going to continue to support you and give you access to like really great features, which, we can talk about some of the software as well. But, the ability, for example, on, game controllers today, if you want to pair your game controller to another screen, one of the biggest problems, you have to like hold down like a button combination, go on the Bluetooth menu on a different device, and kind of configure all of that to work together. And it takes a lot of time. And every time you want to switch from one device to another, you got to repeat that process. We created this technology called Flow State inside the Backbone app, where we basically present a visual look at all of the devices you previously paired. And you can then simply go in there and just connect one device by like tapping a button once. So you could be like, jump to the TV, and it'll push you right over the TV instantly. And again, because of the system we've created in the software, we're able to make that system experience really good. And then you can undock your phone and play wirelessly on that device. So you can move from screen to screen basically instantly with kind of the technology that we built on top through software. And that's just one such example of like some of the developments we've made.
Well,
that's awesome.
I got to tell you, we're running a little short on time here. But I have to tell you, we were absolutely impressed with this product. It feels like a true premium quality device that feels like a genuine disruptor in the gaming market field, whatever you want to call it, gaming industry. It is I can't recommend this high enough, especially for all those travelers out there, heavy commuters. What a wonderful way to be able to take your hobby on the go. And I mean, just aside from that, it's cool.
It is cool. I do have one real quick, John, before we wrap up. Totally.
Yeah, please.
The dreaded question with all handhelds and all controllers: what was done for stick drift?
Great question, Ryan.
Because you're going down to the microns on ergonomics and Z angles and everything like that. So, as someone who's replaced multiple, and I know John has as well with his Switch, like stick drift is just like the bane of our existence as console gamers and people that play a lot. Like, what was done within this unit, so I don't have to go and buy another or try to do warranty or anything like that.
So and we're going to be asking for your cell phone number after this to get that to her.
Actually, first of all, anyone that has a question, like I'm on Twitter and I respond to customers' comments. And
awesome. Love that.
X.com, Maneet KS, you can always message me if you have some question about this. But to go into detail on the joysticks, we went about the joystick decision in like an insane way. Like we evaluated almost every single component on the market to look at everything from accuracy to durability to gameplay feel. And we settled on a kind of unique component with Alps, who's one of the leading joystick manufacturers in the world. And we worked with them to kind of design and spec out, the right joystick for this form factor. And on every metric, comfort, durability, precision, it's like very optimized. I also want to kind of clear up a misconception that I think some customers might have. There's a lot of talk, particularly on Reddit, about Hall effect joysticks versus non-Hall effect. And, I guess I think that there's sort of a misconception there that to say that all Hall effect joysticks are better than all non-Hall effect joysticks isn't really true. It'd be like saying all iPhones are better than Androids.
Yeah.
Because, it depends on the vendor, right? Like the type of implementation of it. And we evaluated numerous Hall effect joystick implementations in the market today. And a lot of them compromise on things like gameplay feeling and are just not from reliable vendors that don't have the durability. So I think to say all of these things are better than all of these things is kind of a really big blanket statement. And so I think what we did is we just tried to find the best component possible on the market, and that's what we sourced. And our products come with a long warranty, and so if you ever encounter an issue, which I'm dubious, the probability is quite low, then we'll replace it for you. So
love it.
I think customers can rest assured that we really cared about this and went to an extra mile, because it sucks when your joysticks give out on these devices. You don't want that to happen. And yeah, I just want to make sure people understand that just because it's Hall effect doesn't mean it's better. It's not necessarily how it works. Yeah.
Nintendo's proven that.
Awesome. Maneet, we like to wrap these shows up by asking a couple of silly this or that questions. You ready for them?
Sure, go for it.
First person shooters or RPGs?
First person shooters for sure.
Are you a late to sleep, late nighter or early riser?
I'm a recovering late night person who's trying to
Game Pass or PlayStation Plus?
Both of them.
No, you got to go this or that.
No, I'm on both of them. I actually play on both secret.
Have you seen the box? On the box, dude, he's got both. What do you mean?
Yeah. No, I'm actually being very transparent about this. I play on every system.
So do I.
Yeah. I really, it's just about what content is available, literally. So I'm gonna play Death Stranding 2 on PS5, and then I'm gonna jump back to something else on Xbox, and it's just
Do you see this cloud trend maybe blurring those lines a bit, like the first party title lines, or do you see it more going the way Netflix has their own shows and Paramount Plus has their own shows, and now it's less that PlayStation is a console, so to speak, but a entertainment hub kind of thing?
I think each company's strategy is just different in this space. Xbox's strategy is the closest to what you just described, where they're literally saying Xbox is everywhere. But I think other companies are thinking about it from a different point of view. And there's not one right or wrong answer, I think. And ultimately gamers will just have a lot of choice. And again, our goal is to enable that, make it possible to play all of these games in as easy and as simple a way as possible. What I'm particularly excited about are just the cloud gaming. I mean, we talked a lot about cloud gaming today, but even just mobile games running on phones are incredibly interesting, right? Apple made a bunch of updates to the game development kit to allow it to be possible to take Windows games and get them to run on Mac and by extension iPhone. So you're seeing the latest Assassin's Creed ship on iPhone 15 onwards. So I'm excited for like the native games as well. We're actually kind of agnostic to how you play. Like you can use Backbone Pro to play like regular Warzone on your PC and then Warzone Mobile on your phone. You don't have to use it with just cloud. So we just want to enable every class of gaming.
As long as you're using Backbone.
Yes, of course. As long as you're using Backbone, it doesn't matter. I don't care who you're playing on.
Awesome. Maneet, this is probably a good time to wrap up. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. We're going to be, where can people find more about Backbone?
So our website, backbone.com. You can follow us on all socials, Instagram, Twitter, etc. And as I mentioned before, you can always message me too on X. Yeah.
Awesome. So we'll make sure we'll post those links in our podcast description below, which you guys can find on your viewer. And we, of course, want to thank everybody for tuning in. If you've enjoyed the show, please take a moment to like us or follow us on your podcast viewer of choice. It's either going to be a follow button or a plus button or something along those lines. Leave us 5 stars. It really helps an independent podcast like ours grow and find new audiences and meet people like Maneet. If you want to take your support a step further, we have information for our Patreon in our podcast description as well, which comes with some really cool perks. And finally, if you want to be a part of the story, if you want to be a part of the dialogue here, our Discord community is amazing. We've got almost 1,000 actively engaging people on it all the time. The hosts, myself and Ryan included, are on there all the time, and we chat with people about games and business and fitness and food and any other number of things. Please join us. It's free to join. We would love to talk to you. That's going to be it for everybody here, or for us, everybody. We hope you enjoyed the show. And until next time, happy gaming.
See ya.
Thank you.